So ordinarily there was going to be a lot more to this video, but by and large all you're really going to see after I'm done talking is the clips that I was reacting to initially. But I just got about halfway through it and I thought to myself, I just can't do this. After spending a good portion of the day looking at yet again at more anti-racist resources, hearing the shit that I heard, which you'll hear yourself in Holyrood today when they were having their general questions, etc. It's just the way that one of the questions was phrased. Hate. Free of hate. How can we ensure politics remains free of hate? Short-haired fat feminist to Angus Robertson. And it might just sound like some sort of passing remark, flippant in nature, but the reality of the matter is that's how they all feel. They all share that worldview. They all share that sort of consensus amongst themselves. You know? You know, when you got feminists like Sturgeon or Talat Yakub, etc., talking about needing more women into politics, more women into positions of power in the parliament for representational purposes. And they always say things like they're not being represented. You know, intersectionality comes into effect. Every type of woman you can think of, every tick box, they all need to be there. And so the way that it was worded by this feminist boot, and the fact that I've heard similar rhetoric before from Thin Lips herself, on a few occasions there's been the odd other reference here and there throughout the years. How can we ensure politics remains free of hate? Because to them, this isn't about a sort of political disagreement where they're worried that they might lose their seat. Oh no, we're well past that. These individuals who do nothing but pat themselves in the back, terminology like referring to their own policies as bold and brave, are said far too often on telling the world that we're planning on becoming independent. Sleeves are getting rolled up and we're going to be playing our part as good global citizens. You've heard it all before. You know, that type of namby-pamby, very questionably gay rhetoric. It sounds gay coming from men, especially when Angus Robertson is the one that's espousing it. But that's here nor there. I'm obviously being somewhat disparaging. The point remains the same though. But in doing so, they obviously have to hinder the prospects of a specific group. And that group is us, it's white men. But it's not just any old white man. Well, by and large, over time it will be, but it's a specific group of white men. It's the white men that oppose their shit. You know? Because they themselves are internationalists. They're progressives. And everything that they do is done for the right reasons. It's moral. It's just. It's all that shite. So if we oppose it at all, if we say anything out loud, if we oppose it, if we detract, if we do not go along with the status quo, then we're everything that's wrong with society. We are racist, we're bigoted, and they've got their hate crime protections for that one. They've got all these policies to ensure that the next generation don't grow up to have any of those tendencies. And of course, they've got the United Nations as additional backup with their human rights laws. Just unbelievable. I just thought, what's the fucking point? Sing from the same hymn sheets. They're all progressives. The progressive consensus, climate justice, climate crises, a phrase that are used all the time. It doesn't matter who you fucking vote for because by and large, they all, to some degree, believe the same shit as each other. Yeah. The only thing that really irritates me at this point, it does feel as if there's no fucking escape at all. Because it's only a matter of time. Whether that be the next general election in Westminster, or whether it be some other reason, it'll get to a point where the SNP will inevitably have their bluff called and they will get that referendum and then we will be dragged out of the UK against our will. And then the question will remain, will it be a case of torpedoing us straight back into the European Union, or will it be a waiting game? I don't fucking know. Hate. You know, I hate how we're not allowed to have anybody standing for us in elections. I hate how we're reduced to being classified as fringe minorities. I hate how we know ourselves we're never going to be able to make any substantial political change. I hate how the likes of PA can go about handing out flyers, and then the likes of Jackie Bailey, for example, will say that there's no place for that hate here, that racism here, etc., etc. There's no place for that hate. They classify everything we say, everything we think, and everything we do as hateful. You know, we point to the fact that they're deliberately diversifying the SNP candidacy for the councils where they're keeping it quiet this time. That's hate. We point to the fact that they're bragging to no end all the fucking time about the ever-increasing amount of diversity within the country. That is hate. You point to the fact that anti-racist education entails critical race theory. That is hate. You point to the fact that there's no such thing as the fucking misogynistic boogeyman that Nicola Thinlips proclaims is everywhere within society. That is hate. If you do not agree with what they tell you to fucking agree with, that is hate. Even looking at this little screenshot for what it's worth, you just know it's going to be a great day in Hollywood when you've got Angus Robertson sat there. And you know damn well what he's doing. He's probably got his phone out or his tablet. He'll be looking at Google Images, looking at EU flags, because that's all he fucking cares about, really. Scrolling down, going, oh yes, I like that. Oh, look at that. Here is the best that non-racial Scotland has to offer. Ian Blackford's stunt double.
Thank you, Deputy Presiding Officer. To ask what assessment the Scottish Government has made of the potential impact on Scotland of the outcome of the French presidential election.
Cabinet Secretary Angus Robertson.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. May I take the opportunity to repeat the congratulations of the Scottish Government and no doubt members right across this chamber on the re-election of President Emmanuel Macron for a second term. This result creates the opportunity for the Scottish Government, particularly through our office in Paris, to continue our collaborative work with the French Government on shared issues such as culture, as climate change, biodiversity, human rights and many others, also creating the opportunity to reaffirm our shared and strongly held European values.
I thank the Cabinet Secretary for his answer. Voters in France have recently joined those in a number of European countries by rejecting the far right with the dismissal of Marine Le Pen at the ballot box. What assurances can the Cabinet Secretary make to ensure that Scotland's politics will also remain internationalist and free of hate?
Cabinet Secretary.
The Scottish Government's approach to international engagement is built on the same values of fairness and inclusion that guide our policies at home. Our international activities and domestic priorities are mutually reinforcing. By offering our expertise and making a constructive contribution to addressing global challenges, we can continue to promote Scotland as a good global citizen, and at the same time, our international work and our engagement informs the achievement of our domestic objectives, for instance, by advancing a just transition to a net zero, nature positive, well-being economy.
So, of course, didn't answer the question correctly, really. He prattled on for a couple of minutes. He had to do something to take his mind off the fact he was on the verge of soiling himself on camera. That's what happens every time he talks about global citizenship, etc.
Government, when it last held talks with the UK Government about devolving immigration powers to Scotland. Minister Neil Gray.
Thank you, President Officer. We've clearly set out how devolution of migration powers would work in our January 2020 paper. In February, I wrote a joint letter with my Welsh and Northern Irish counterparts to the UK Minister for Safe and Legal Migration, calling for immediate changes to the immigration system and for regular engagement. On the 28th of April, last week, I met the UK Minister to discuss a range of migration issues, including these. And despite this, there has been no positive response from the UK Government. It's therefore clear that only through independence and restoration of freedom of movement that we can best properly tackle Scotland's population challenges.
And there was another reference, of course, to our population challenges. That's something else I hate. Our ageing population issue, our declining birth rate. No, it's just a simple solution. There's a simple solution to that problem. We will have a compassionate border system, an asylum system, where we will import the most blackest of men, potentially. The blacker the better. The browner the better. Because remember, even according to mainstream media now, the future of Scotland is fucking Asian.